Ready
I'm
when you
going
are,
to get
Greg.
started. Ready to go. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, March 13th. It's the Roaring Fork Transportation Authority Board of Directors meeting. I think up first we need a roll call.
Greg Poshman,
Here.
Jeannie McQueenie,
Here.
Art Riddle,
Here.
Colin Laird,
Here.
Tom Fritchstein,
Here.
and Sam Rose.
Here.
We have a
Welcome,
quorum.
everyone. We got it. Okay. Welcome, everybody. We're going to go right into approval of the minutes of board meeting February 13th. Does anyone have anything they want to call up on that, or can I get a
I do.
Colin?
Just a minor change or edit. Let me find it. So in regard to the study that we were talking about at the last meeting, the minutes, trying to find it. The minutes said that I made a comment that talked about Shelley Kaup bringing up concern about this study several years ago to the board, and it was several months.
Sorry, I had my volume down, so I missed everything you just said. If it was relevant, I heard Shelley's name and everything after.
Yes. Okay. Let me just get to the.
Sorry.
I have a little. No worries. It might make more sense if I do it a second time.
Okay, thank you.
On page 5, there's my name, and then mentions that when Rafter brought this topic to the board, meaning the BRT preferred alternative through Glenwood Springs.
Yeah.
I said Rafter brought this topic to the board several years ago. Shelley Copper, representative from the city of Glenwood Springs. That should just be several months ago. I mean, Shelley brought it up. It wasn't years ago. Minor change.
I'll make that change.
Great catch, Colin.
Thank you.
Getting back to my agenda here. Okay, if that's all we have, I'd be looking for a motion.
I'd move to approve.
Okay,
Second.
we've got, I think, Colin and I don't know if that was Tom or Art. All in favor? I
Aye.
guess.
Yeah.
Aye is good. Okay, that's enough for us, Nicole. Okay, public comment. We're going to go right into public comment regarding items that are not on today's agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone online? And I'm going to need help locating him. I'm looking for hands up on my little screen here. If there's anyone online who'd like to make a comment from the public, you can raise your hand. It might be *9 or using your whichever function it is. Or just speak up, and I'll give you a couple seconds here. Okay.
Not seeing any hands.
Not seeing any hands. Okay, thanks, Kurt. We're going to keep moving. Any additions to the agenda? And for first of all, Kurt or anyone else, and then we'll go to board comment.
There are no changes.
No changes. Okay, board member comment. Once again, anyone would like to say something? Holler. I'm using a very tiny screen here today, so we'll see how that works. I don't hear any board comment.
I'll comment that I'm here. It's David Knight. So for
hey,
purposes,
David, there he is. Thank you.
Yep.
Good morning.
Morning. Sorry I'm late.
Go ahead.
I'm just commenting that I'm here. Just so you know.
Great.
I don't have anything else. We keep them
All right. Glad you're here. I'm going to go right to the consent agenda. What we have first is 2512 resolution authorization to submit fiscal year 25 FTA 5339B bus and bus facilities, 5339C low and no emissions grant applications to replace diesel buses with 6 40-foot diesel hybrid and 7 45-foot diesel coach buses. David Johnson, I think you're on deck.
Mr. Chair, this is consent. So if
Thank you. Thank you for that. I always need that reminder. Okay, so B is going to be authorization to submit fiscal year 26 congressionally directed spending requests for diesel coach buses. And C is 2514, approve and authorize the execution of a public utility easement with the city of Glenwood Springs at Iron Mountain Place Employee Housing. And we'll leave it there. There's our consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull anything or discuss anything in particular, or can I get a motion?
I
Move to
move
approve the
to,
consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Colin, and I'm not sure who seconded.
I can
Nicole?
second if nobody else has.
Okay, so we've got Aaron. Aaron, we'll just give it to Aaron since I see your name there. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks for getting me through that. That consent agenda. How come I do that in every board meeting I chair? You think I'd learn? Okay, presentations, action items, first last mile update. And Mary or David, are you on deck ready for this?
Yes, I am ready for this. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
I can.
Great.
And go ahead.
All right. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Hello, Board of Directors. I am going to give a quick update on the activities and recommended actions of RFTA staff and the FLMM Board Advisory Committee. Three meetings took place following the development of the FLMM Board Advisory Committee on December 9th, 2024, January 13th, and March 3rd, 2025. Long-term funding was central to the discussions, and we were able to narrow down short-term, mid-term, and long-term possible funding solutions and actions by our third meeting. Throughout the process, we were able to identify tools that could help provide better FLMM service to the community, including an integrated transportation map and a unified transportation app were considered. RFTA is currently working on a transportation map in collaboration with Farnsworth, using the RFTA systems map as its base and overlaying RFTA trails, bike share docking stations, and microtransit service areas. Finally, we realized throughout the process that key planning strategies were necessary in order to plan for microtransit following a jurisdiction's exhaustion of the 50% funding that is currently being allocated during the first 3 years of the seed funding grant program. We were able to use Basalt as a case study by looking at geography and demographics to determine size and population relative to transportation needs, estimate future microtransit costs to Basalt, and track these costs using a few scenarios based on tapering the funding by 10% per year until 2029. That's one of the options. Another option was tapering the funding down to 20% per year until 2029. And the third option that we examined was using the percentage of microtransit trips to and from the RFTA trunk line as a metric. We also collaborated with the downtowner to acquire additional raw, non-aggregated, semi-aggregated booking data, unique user IDs, and historical data sets to analyze for accuracy and supplementary information. Finally, we did people counts at strategic locations in Basalt, which we're still currently doing some of those, to analyze the accuracy of geofencing strategies currently being used by the downtowner and work towards standardizing that geofencing. This chart shows the bike share and microtransit trips going to and from the RFTA trunk line. If RFTA were to fund microtransit in the future, according to trips taken to and from the RFTA trunk line, excluding bike share, this chart could represent RFTA's approximate funding of Basalt and Carbondale's microtransit. This was another chart that we used during the case study that we did on Basalt. This chart illustrates the cost of microtransit for Basalt over time, given options that I mentioned previously. The blue line represents the total cost of the Basalt Connect over time. The orange line represents the cost of microtransit to Basalt if RFTA covered 20% of the total cost and Basalt covered 80%. The gray line represents Basalt's cost if RFTA reduced funding by 10% per year through 2029. And finally, the yellow line represents the cost to Basalt if the 3-year average of trips to and from the RFTA trunk line were to be used. Overall, it is recommended to combine a 10% taper per year until it reaches the percentage of trips to and from the RFTA trunk line. So we determined short-term, mid-term, and long-term recommended actions, or considered several of these actions. Short and mid-term funding possibilities are primarily easy to implement. They would be time and cost efficient and could require little resolution from community members. In recognizing the importance of helping jurisdictions in planning, we've added that here as we are prepared to start helping jurisdictions with planning immediately if they so desire. And that is something that we determined when we did the Basalt case study. We were able to see that some of what we were doing would be quite helpful to Basalt moving forward. So we decided that that should be an action considered moving forward. Other options like exploring cost savings and service efficiencies, grant funding options, and advertisement or consolidating pickup and drop-off locations were also examined. Some long-term recommended actions include collaborating on regional and statewide legislation that supports microtransit funding and jurisdictions, or considering a future tax levy. And I just asterisk this because this was not an action that we necessarily are recommending. It was just something that was considered during our conversations. Also, we will provide regular follow-ups and the committee may meet again as necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I'm going to open this up to questions. If anyone has a question, now would be a good time. I'm going to ask, I participated in, I think I was able to make it to 2 of those meetings. I missed the last one, I was out sick. And I appreciate the work everyone has done on this and the extra meetings that it took to get to this point. I wanted just to ask, as I always do, was there discussion anywhere near the end about electrification of fleets and if that would save any money in the long term over the costs of, say, running the gasoline powered vans, or I assume they're the gasoline powered?
Mr. Chair, Colin has his hand raised.
Colin, thank you.
Just wanted to double your thanks to staff and the board members who participated. I think it was a very efficient and useful exercise to talk about a very important kind of added service that RFTA has been able to instigate in Basalt, Carbondale, and now Glenwood Springs. So I think this was a great model for how we can put a little extra work into diving into an issue and bringing some recommendations back to the board. So really kudos to the staff for all the work they did, and thanks to all the other board members who participated. I think it was a good process. We didn't find the perfect solution, but I think we found a good one, and it's very workable moving forward, given the time we have and the funding we have for microtransit. So thanks to everybody.
Right. And so we're going to assume that we're going to see a report, a monthly check-in with this group in future board meetings. Is that still the plan? I guess, Kurt, I'll ask you that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it'll be monthly, but we'll definitely be checking
As often,
back in.
yeah. Thank you. Often as necessary. Great. Thank you. I'm going to keep us moving here. Up next,
Mr. Chair, Tori has
sure.
his hand up too.
Thank you. Thanks for Tori. Thanks.
Hi, thank you so much. Greg, I wanted to answer your question. No, we didn't have specific conversations around the difference between an electrified future or diesel powered futures. But the assumption is that we are all supportive of moving towards electrified.
Great, thank you. I think it's worth just running the numbers, cost comparisons going forward. I think we're going to see electric vehicle charge costs coming down despite all the turmoil, and there may be people incentivized to make us deals on vehicles. We should just be aware of that. Thanks,
Thanks. I think that that's an important piece of input from the rest of the board. So, Mary, I'd ask that kind of gets carried forward to the next time that this group meets. But I just want to chime in here real quickly that, we were looking at first last mile mobility. We ended up really working on some current conditions with the Basalt Connect and the like. So a little bit more of microtransit. But we did make one strong effort towards doing more work in the FLMM arena, and that is that we have started to map out our service locations and our serviceability for different areas. And what I mean by that is we started to really chart where bike share is, where bus stop pickups are, and the like, so that we can identify areas that are underserved by first last mile mobility solutions. As that tool set gets built out, we will then be able to have better conversations about where maybe we want to be adding some FLMM services in the future. But that work is really just starting now.
Great. Thanks, Tori. Good points.
Greg, I just want to let you know, ReProterra electric buses, we can let them go really cheap.
Oh, really? Yeah, it'd be fun to hear what the trials and tribulations that you're hinting at there.
They don't operate.
Well, okay, thank you. I want to dig deeper on that at some point. Okay, I'm gonna keep us moving, I think, unless they have any other questions. Hands up. I'm still looking.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, if I can chime in just real quickly on the component of looking at electrification and some of Tori's comments. I think one of the big outcomes for me is, as Tori was discussing, that planning is really was one of the major components that came out of these conversations from my perspective. And the electrification piece of the fleet, I see as being as a part of RFTA staff's collaboration with each jurisdiction as they implement their first last mile strategies to see if electrification works within that context and whether that can be actually save money for that specific jurisdictions. But I think that that's something at this point that we need to look at on a case by case basis. Great.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate your weighing in on that. It's an interesting path ahead in the Chinese curse sense of the word. Okay. Any other comments, questions? I'm going to move us on to the public hearings. We have a Reso 25-15. This is the 2024 supplemental budget appropriations. And this will require votes. roll call votes according to Nicole. So I'm telling you all now so you can remind me in 3 minutes and go ahead. Paul, is Paul here?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
We can. Thanks for being here.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Let me just share my screen here. Give me one moment. And I do have David Carl here with me. He's our budget manager. So we'll kind of run through these two resolutions. And yes, we do have two resolutions today on the agenda. Resolutions 2025-15, which is a 2024 budget year supplemental budget appropriation, and the resolution 2025-16, which is the 2025 budget appropriation. And if you recall from our December budget presentation, we mentioned that we'd be coming forth with these agenda items after we've had a chance to review review and pay our 2024 invoices and continue our year-end review. We have identified, I'll move to this first resolution. These items in this list, it's on pages 30 and 31. It's a fairly lengthy list based on a review of things we're moving out. For the most part, we're moving out of the 2024 budget into the 2025 budget year. So this portion, this resolution is just we're moving these items out, both project budgets as well as any related revenues into moving it out of 2024. There is one new budget item included in this resolution. It's towards the end. It's a net zero budget item. It's a couple of new provisions that came down from the Government Accounting Standards Board, where special treatment is required for both long-term leases and subscription-based information technology arrangements. We've been working with the audit. It's a relatively new provision, and we've been working through this with our auditors, with our assistants, valuable assistants. So that's the new item, and you'll note that there's a net zero fund balance impact. And again, that's for our financial statement, our presentation on our financial statements. I did want to note here in the 2024 the impact to the fund balance. You'll see here that by removing these budget items out of the 2024 budget year, we're increasing fund balance by approximately $12.7 million. And when we get to the next resolution in 2025, you'll see a very similar reduction to fund balance. So that will be it'll be close to a net zero impact. Not quite, but it'll be close. So if I can, moving on.
Well, why don't you move on to the next one, and we can vote on them after you cover the second one. Is that okay?
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Moving on to the next budget resolution, 2025-16. You'll see a lot of the same items from the from the 2024 resolution, and we're adding in these items, these project budgets and related revenues into the 2025 budget. One thing I did want to mention here, and I'll scroll to there's one new budget. There's a couple new budget items here. In items 2A and 2B, we are truing up some of our grant items. For the 2A is related to the FTA 53 operating grant revenue, and item 2B is related to the zero emission workforce development grant. This is a second grant that was received. Item 2D, I thought I'd highlight this for our 2025 capital contingency. During our 2025 budget process, we determined that there were a number of high priority strategic initiatives that had not been funded in the 2025 adopted budget. And so as we went through our review process now, we noted we were able to find budget savings and repurpose the $2.3 million of savings, and we're rolling that's savings coming from the 2024 budget year, and we're going to repurpose that into 2025 into this capital contingency account. And we would like to at future meetings come back to the board and notify the board of any of the use of these funds. And then here, this is the corresponding offset. I mentioned this at with the 2024 supplemental budget resolution, we're increasing fund balance, and this is the net effect. We're also decreasing the fund balance in the 2025 budget resolution. So it's close to a net zero impact. Maybe I'll stop there. I know that there's a fairly lengthy list of items here. I'm not sure if any questions, but maybe I'll stop there and see if there are any initial questions.
Great, thanks, Paul. Entertaining questions from the board. If I don't see your hand, please just speak up. Okay, I'm not hearing or seeing anyone. We seem to be okay. This is a public hearing. And let me get back to that page. Sorry, trying to find the right page here. Okay, so I think I need a public hearing on this first. I'm going to open it up. Nobody seems to be, they're raising their hand. I'm looking, but I'm not seeing anybody. I'm going to bring it back to the board. Any questions from board once again? And if not, I'm going to look for a motion for Resolution 2515, 2024 Supplemental Budget Appropriations. We'll do that first.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion from Tori. Need a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Aaron, and maybe that was Dave.
I think it was Dave.
Okay, I need a roll call. Nicole?
Greg Postman,
Aye.
Art Riddle,
Aye.
Jeannie McQueenie,
Aye.
Colin Laird,
Aye.
Aaron Zelinsky,
Aye.
David Knight,
Aye.
Tom Fritzstein,
Aye.
Corey.
Yes.
Okay, it passes.
Okay, we've got it passes. Thank you all. The next one we need to vote on is 2516, 2025 Supplemental Budget Appropriations, as described by Paul. I'm going to reopen the public hearing just in case. And if you want to speak up on this is your opportunity. Just for a few seconds. I'm not seeing any hands or hearing any voices. Bringing it back. Any board comment or question? And if none, I will look for a motion.
So moved.
Okay, that was Aaron. And I'll second it.
Seconded.
Okay, or Tori. Okay, roll call, please.
Greg Postman,
Aye.
Art Riddle,
Aye.
Jeannie McQueenie,
Aye.
Colin Laird,
Aye.
Aaron Zelinsky,
Aye.
David Knight,
Aye.
Tom Fritstein,
Aye.
and Tori.
Aye.
It
Right.
passes.
Thank you all. We're going to keep things moving. Appreciate the expediency here. This will be a record length meeting. Up next, CEO report with Kurt. Kurt, you're on.
Okay. Get my screen here. So, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have been receiving a number of inquiries from primarily folks in the Upper Valley as it relates to the use of the bus-only lanes. And I think we felt that since there were a lot of questions around RFTAs, at least from a staff perspective, of the use of the bus-only lanes, that we would take the opportunity to put that in writing within the CEO report. So apparently there's been some conversations regarding whether or not the bus-only lanes between Buttermilk and the roundabout could be opened for general traffic to use during peak times. I think it had been conveyed in a few settings that RFTA and CDOT were agreeable to doing this, and we just wanted to clarify that that's not something that RFTA has ever agreed to do, of opening the bus-only lanes for general traffic during peak times. We have historically agreed to have those lanes used for emergency situations, such as clearing a large event, or if there's a dignitary coming to town or leaving town, that those were uses that we felt were appropriate. So the bus lanes, as I'm sure many of you are aware, the idea of those came out of the entrance to Aspen environmental impact statement that was identified in the preferred alternative in the record of decision. Those lanes were then constructed in 2007 with funding provided by the EOTC through the mass transportation funds that were collected to be used for the construction of infrastructure and facilities and services of mass transit. So that's the origin of the bus-only lanes. Those are owned and maintained by CDOT. So that we did reach out to CDOT to see if they had any insight or feelings on the topic, since it was being discussed in the Upper Valley. And CDOT sent us the 2008 State Highway 82 bus lanes operations study that was prepared for the EOTC. And I did provide a citation from that report that describes the use by other vehicles. And per the ROD and per this operations study, it does limit the use of those lanes to RFTA buses, to emergency vehicles, and to school buses. It also does discuss a process that would need to be undertaken if there was going to be a change to that. There would need to be coordination with FHWA and CDOT. There would likely need to be NEPA documentation, potential local votes, and a replacement of funding for the busway construction costs. So I just wanted to remind folks of the origins of those bus lanes and our understanding of the use of those, and clarify RFTA's staff position on whether we would be open to those lanes being utilized by general traffic. And staff position is no, we do not feel that that would be appropriate based on the origin of those bus lanes and the funding that was utilized to construct those bus lanes. I guess any questions on that before I move on?
Yeah, thank you. I was going to just open it up to questions and comment if I could. I think that the provenance of this, where people have talked about this for years, but really I think it gained a little bit of traction when the sheriff felt compelled to open it up during a particularly busy time. And so the question I have is, what authority does the sheriff have, and how does that work with if the sheriff declares that there's an emergency, say traffic is stuffed up in both directions all the way through Aspen and halfway beyond the airport? If the sheriff makes a call to open that up, what chain of events does that trigger? They are the enforcement mechanism, but then he also has certain powers which I'm not completely fully aware of, and I'm wondering if you've had an opportunity to discuss that with our sheriff, and we've had a meeting of the minds. If not, I want to suggest that we do. On the door. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, and
crazy.
To clarify, RFTA is a user of those bus lanes. We do not own or operate or really have any control over those bus lanes. They're a facility that's provided on a CDOT state highway. They were identified to be constructed through a record of decision through a NEPA process, and the funding that was utilized to construct them was for the use of the construction of facilities infrastructure through the mass transportation tax. So if the sheriff felt that he wanted to open those, I think we would want to look at the situation. Is it a one-time situation that was an emergency that they felt they needed to do it? Or is it something that has been deemed an emergency on a daily basis and it's now being opened every day during peak times? That would probably be a different scenario. But this would ultimately need to be a discussion with CDOT in terms of whether CDOT was agreeable to that or not. And when we approached CDOT, they provided us the documentation from the 2008 try to cite the study correctly, the 2008 Highway 82 bus lane operations study. So that was their position when asked, is that this is still the relevant use of those lanes. So it really would ultimately be a discussion between CDOT and the Sheriff's Department.
Thank you. So it seems like RFTA doesn't have liability in this situation. We're just a user.
I would say though that the EOTC, since they were the ones who funded the construction using mass transit tax, that they would probably have an interest as well. Right.
Thank you. I see Tori's got his hand up. Tori.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I just wanted to say, this was brought about because of a very specific place and kind of incident, right? The move here was not intended to say, hey, forget the bus lane only dedication and let's start letting general traffic use the bus lanes everywhere. That wasn't what sparked this, right? This is specific to the roundabout outside of Aspen, and traffic heading west or down valley, and in the afternoon, when there's a lot of congestion there and a lot of cars leaving Aspen at the same time, the bus lane runs on the outside, picks up just after the roundabout. And so there's the cars that are going into the roundabout then only have one lane for general traffic and one lane for the buses. So there's a bottleneck there and it backs up. It's very specific to that spot. And when the sheriff was addressing this, that's what he was saying, is that in those instances where it gets backed up into the roundabout and through the roundabout, they are trying to move traffic through there as best they can. So it's not a system-wide approach. It's just very specific to this one spot. If anybody was interested in making changes to that dedicated bus lane usage, it would take, as Kurt outlined in his memo, it would take some real movement and action and collaboration with CDOT, FHWA, et cetera, as well as the NEPA process, because these are all part of the record of decision plans that kind of bake them in to the greater regional programming. So I just, some people may not know exactly what the genesis of this whole discussion is, and it's very specific to that. There are few advocates that are suggesting anything about changing the dedicated usage. Anyway, just wanted to add that to the conversation. Thanks.
Right. Thanks, Tori. That definitely helps flesh it out. I didn't see any other hands up. I'm going to keep us moving. Back to you, Kurt, unless there's something else you want to add.
No, I will continue on here. Back to sharing my screen. Just as a reminder, our RFTA board planning summit is scheduled for May. So not next month, but the following month. And at this point, what RFTA is, well, I should just start out that we're planning on that being in Carbondale, again, at the Carbondale Town Hall, where we usually meet. It will be on the regularly scheduled May board meeting day. And it would start as usual at 8:30 a.m. We would have a brief board of directors meeting to conduct any necessary RFTA business. We'd then adjourn and transition into the planning summit. We're looking right now, I think, at concluding around 2 p.m. And we'd have facilitation provided by Gruffy Clow, who has facilitated our board summits in the past. In regards to topics, having recently just concluded this board subcommittee for the first and last mile mobility discussion, that we felt that was a good springboard into having a more in-depth conversation about the role that RFTA can play in delivering mobility solutions to our region. RFTA as an RTA is now 25 years into that existence as a regional transportation authority. I think most everybody in this region thinks of RFTA as a bus system, but as a regional transportation authority, we do have broad powers to be able to address transportation issues within our service area. So whether that's bus service, whether that is other mobility solutions like bike share or microtransit, or maybe even van pooling or other types of mobility ideas, those are things that RFTA could take on. There's ideas such as maybe regional transportation demand management that could be facilitated, as well as just planning efforts and activities, maybe coordination of grant efforts on a regional scale. So there's a number of ideas that we feel that we could have discussions with the board to see whether maybe support or not support in terms of moving forward, and hoping that RFTA can position itself to continue to meet transportation needs of the region and make sure that we can continue doing that for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So that right now is and then I should also say, and then how that comes back and aligns with our strategic plan, and if there's any potential amendments that might be needed to our strategic plan based on those discussions. So that is our plan as of now. We'll continue to work with you, Greg, and Alyssa, our vice chair, and any other members of the board who may be interested in planning our board planning summit in May.
Great. Thank you, Kurt. I want to just check to see if there are any questions on this. I did have one short thing I just wanted to flag, we are going to be closing the Pitkin County Airport for an extended period of time. Honestly, we're doing it every year now. We're going to be down for about a month, perhaps a bit more. This year, I don't have the exact dates, but it's sometime around, I was told on my calendar, April 4th to almost June 1st. I think that's probably a larger window than we're going to need. I guess we should be contemplating how RFTA is going to be filling in the gaps to get people around as we try to get them to. Sorry, go ahead.
Greg, I'm sorry. You said April 4th, but
I have a big block in my calendar. I know it's not that long, but this spring we are going to have an airport closure, and I'll have to get back to you on the exact dates. I don't have it.
I think it's in May. Yeah.
May. Yeah, I think
You
it's the
said
month
May
of
4th.
May.
May is what
May
May is what I had. How come I have April maintenance closure starting at April 4th? This could be my mistake. It's about a month is what I understand. Maybe that will be truncated. But
May
yeah,
5th to June 2nd.
Didn't want to panic you. But we're going to be doing this every year for the time being. Certainly as federal funding is questionable, we've got plans to close the airport every year for maintenance. And then at some point there'll be this massive construction project. And I'm sure RFTA is already contemplating this, but perhaps that could be on our docket for this regional transportation summit. And then the other thing I want to bring up are just that it seems that we're having more and more special events with massive amounts of people coming into the Upper Valley. And I know a lot of these events are contracting with bus agencies or van companies outside. Perhaps that we should have a conversation about that as well. Is RFTA's role going to need to change? As it seems we like to have big concerts here and things like that here. But that would be my 2 cents worth. I'm going to look for more questions. And thanks, Tori. Thanks for that. It's not. I don't have a correction for you yet because I don't have the exact dates.
Colin has his hand.
Colin.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kurt, I don't know if this is something we just put in a board meeting or it's part of the retreat, but this whole notion of federal funding and the lack thereof. I mean, you mentioned some of our grants that were awarded are kind of in limbo now, and some of them are very large grants that would really impact some of our efforts, particularly in Glenwood Springs with the transit center. I don't know if you could maybe at the next meeting give us an update on all that and what, if any, plan B that we should start thinking about if that funding is going to be gone for an extended period of time, would probably be useful.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up. And I know Mike Yang here in just a minute was going to speak a little bit more about that. We have been, we just had a meeting with Senator Hickenlooper's staff yesterday. We're working to set up a meeting here shortly with Congressman Hurd. Unfortunately, at this point in time, we're not getting a lot of great feedback on the status and the outlook of those grants. So we have close to probably $50 million in grants for primarily to complete the phases of construction at our Glenwood maintenance facility that would provide the transit center at the existing West Glenwood Park and Ride, as well as the operations administration and training facility there across the street. So we're continuing to work with our lobbyists with sustainable strategies and try to navigate this process as best we can. As we understand it now, any grants that were unobligated, which we have probably 3 that fall into that category that total close to 50 million, those are likely going to be reviewed on a case-by-case basis to see how they align with the various executive orders that have been issued. So yeah, I think that is something that we might want to squeeze into this board planning summit, or we could possibly bring it forward as we know a little more, maybe in April, regarding the outlook of those grants. And I know Mike might have more to add too.
Thanks, Kurt. Could you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, we as Kurt mentioned, we met with the staff of Senator Hickenlooper. We've been in touch with Senator Bennett's office and also trying to set up an appointment with Representative Hurd. We have also been in touch with Ann Rajewski, Executive Director at CASTA. They recently went out to Washington, D.C. and Ann was sharing some of her experience with us yesterday. But we plan to kind of tackle this in various fronts. So I think, as Kurt mentioned, there is that level of uncertainty, but we're trying to do our best to advocate for our projects and have those touch points with our delegation. I think that, but that's where we are with this particular topic. I do have other items that
Mike?
I'd like to share too when ready. Yep.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I believe Jeannie has her hand up. That
Jeannie,
might be on the
thank
topic.
you. Thanks, Kurt.
Yeah, I guess I was probably just going to add, I was out in Washington talking with our delegation as well. We heard that Congressman Neguse would be willing to make phone calls on our behalf for any grant dollars not received. And when we got back, it turns out that all of our grant dollars have been received that were promised, and some of them are reimbursable. And so that's in the works. But the take on it was that this is going to be a very transactional White House right now. And that if you have representatives who are willing to call and state your problem specifically, that will gain you. It's not going to be a massive undoing of something at the White House level. It's going to be transactional, one step at a time. This is their take on it. And Congressman Hurd and Neguse are working really well together. And if we could get them to both make a pitch on behalf of RFTA, that would be really good. Met with Congressman Hurd, and he's particularly interested on this whole congressionally directed spending application in anything that has to do with infrastructure, especially transit and transportation. And so we're kind of hitting an interest area of his. If he's working with Neguse and we state our problem well, they might be able to shake it loose. That's the word we heard.
Thanks, Jeannie. Reason for optimism. We had our board retreat a couple of weeks ago, and Congressman Hurd came by and kind of had a short session with us, and we came away with his sense of his affinity for transportation. He says particularly aviation, but transportation issues are front and center for him. So let's hope that he can pull through for us with Neguse as well. Okay, is that it, Mike? Anything else? Are we back to, you wanted to bring something else up? Is this the time? Or I'm going to let you and Kurt decide how to proceed from here.
Yeah.
With the...
Okay. Yeah. So I do want to just clarify the point that Jeannie made is, so for grants that we have that are obligated and we have a contract for, we have still been able to draw those funds down. So those funds are still flowing. We're getting those. It's the unobligated grants, the ones where we just received the award, but we haven't finalized the process of contracting with the federal agencies, granting agencies, to where then the funds become obligated. And we have 3 of those right now that fall into that category. Just moving down, we have all of our metrics as usual. We also included, once we get past the metrics, a new section on our OKR tracking for the board priorities that came out of our board summit last summer. So on page, I want to say 59 of the board packet, you'll see where we have the 2025 draft of board of director priorities and the status of where those items are right now. So any questions
Could you
on?
share your screen?
Yes, I will do that.
I can't do two screens at the same time.
There we go. So here we had our RFTA Board of Director priorities. We've put these into tracking to see the key results for each objective. I won't necessarily go through each of these, but if there are any questions, you can see where we have status indicators, green meaning it's on track, and yellow is behind schedule, and then red is stalled. We currently have everything on track. We have a few that were not quite on schedule, but we'll get them back on track. And then we'll transition to Mike's financial report, and he does have one more update he'd like to provide. That we just received some new information that didn't make it into the CEO report that he'll speak to.
But I just want to say thanks, Kurt. I really appreciate the OKRs. It's a great way to summarize and keep abreast of what's happening there. So thank you very much for those. Great addition.
Yep.
Take it away,
Go ahead,
Mike.
Mike.
Thanks, Kurt. Thanks, Greg. On page 63 of the board packet, there is a 2024 financial statement audit schedule. So this is the first topic I would like to speak to. Let me just share my screen if that will help. It sounds
Great.
like
Yeah.
it should. You see it?
Yeah, if you could make that a little bigger, then Mike.
Thanks. Yep. So the 2024 audit schedule is listed here, and this is typically usually starts at the end of April or beginning of May for our auditors to do their field work. And then between that period and then about mid-June, the final draft audit report, the financial statement audit report would be made available. And typically at that time, we've convened, we've put together an RFTA board audit subcommittee, where the intention of that meeting is to provide more time for conversation with our auditors and staff and the audit report. And I know that the approach taken has been typically where this audit subcommittee would take 2 hours to meet one time, and then at the July board meeting, we would have as a consent agenda item the financial statement report to be submitted as a consent agenda item for acceptance by the RFTA board. And by taking that approach, I feel like that's been helpful for the board members, for the staff, and just to have that time before an actual full board meeting to kind of review the audit report and ask questions and have more in-depth conversations. So based on that background, I know that one of the asks that we have today to the board is to verify who can serve on the audit subcommittee this June. And on the screen, it shows last year we had Tori and Alyssa represent the RFTA board. And we also, part of that process, we also have invited as an independent financial expert from folks from Pickens County and Eagle County to participate. That helps round out the conversation. It's also helpful to hear how things are going from their perspectives. But I think that's been a value. We plan to do the same. But today, we'd like to ask the board if they could reaffirm or just verify who who would like to participate and serve on that audit subcommittee. Again, the meeting will be 2 hours and it'll be in about mid-June. And we've had it done in person before, but we have accommodated folks with a virtual option as needed. So I'll pause right there.
Great, thanks.
Kick it back to the board.
Thanks, Mike. I just want to, have we confirmed that we've got Anna Earl and Ann Driggers back again?
That's something that our finance director, Paul Hamilton, will be reaching out to them. But both counties have been consistently participating in this process for years now. So I hope that they can continue to do the same. And if one person couldn't make it, they might invite someone else on their team to join. So
got it. Great.
But just wanted to share that perspective too.
Thank you. If you need me to reach out to Ann and encourage her strongly, I will.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go to the board. I know Tori has an election coming up, so I'm not sure if Tori's the right one. Tori, do you want to add to this?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same. Yeah, I have an election on April 1st to stay on city council as a council member. So if there's a need for surety going forward, if anybody and let me sell this. This is a fun committee. I think everybody out there should really be looking forward to the opportunity getting on the audit subcommittee. So at this time, if there's anybody that's really piqued interest, I'm happy to step down now to allow somebody else to have this incredible experience. It's funny, I was looking at Colin when I was saying
yeah, funny, I was also. Colin, you see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I think was on this last year, but I couldn't participate for a variety of reasons. So I'm happy to do it this year.
Okay. Do we need any sort of formal appointments here, or are we just going to hand the baton over from Tori to Colin? And thank you, Tori, for that. And anticipate we're going to see you in June. But I want to. Does anyone else have a comment or an interest in this that we should know about? And I'm gonna. Okay, I'm going to go back and if we don't need to do anything more, I'm okay with Colin. But do we need to vote on this? Is there a vote, or is this just a volunteerism? Mike, can you tell me that?
Well, I think the board. I'm not sure if it's a vote is required, but I do know that if the board, whoever the board appoints, then whatever that process is, then we're happy to take. Like when Tori said, this is really engaging. So I do feel like this is an important part, but I do. So I would look to either Nicole to verify that.
Yeah, we don't need a vote. We haven't before. We just nomination.
Okay.
This is just a grunt and a nod. I think will be fine.
Thank you.
Okay. How about a thumbs up? Anybody anybody wants to weigh in on this and regarding Colin appointment to this committee? My guess is other board members could check in if they wanted to. Is that correct? This isn't limited, is it? I'm going to go back to Mike. I see your hand up.
Yeah, well, it would be ideal to try to have at least 2 board members. I think at one point we had maybe 3, but.
Got it. Well, Alyssa, we haven't even asked Alyssa. We're just assuming that she's re-upping here. Alyssa, are you there?
She's not on today, but she does. I know that she likes this board, so I can reach out to her to see if she wants to stay on it.
Got it. Is there anyone else who would like to? I'll put my name in. If I can make it on the schedule, I would happily join, and I'll count on being invited. How's that? And I want to make sure that.
It sounds good.
Thinking about it.
You know what, if there's a need, I would love it. I mean, right now I'm still doing a deep dive into all things out there and trying to get as much information as I can. So I take opportunities when presented.
Great. Well, it sounds like we've got a roster.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. I have Colin, Alyssa, and Greg. We'll run with that list. And this is an annual event, so there'll be another chance for those who
Great.
might want to participate in the future.
And if
Thank you.
Aaron wants to join in, we can invite her as well. Is that still okay, Mike? It does sound like we're limited, so.
Yes, we just have to make sure that we are in compliance with our notices and so on as we have a certain number.
Thank you. Tori's hand's still up.
I was just going to support Aaron for participating. So that's all. Greg, you chair a few different committees, and you're very busy, and I know you have the capacity, but I just wanted to encourage Aaron to be able to participate.
I'll second that, and I'm happy to take a step back.
Thank you.
So that's fine. Thanks, Tori, and I appreciate your confidence in me, as unfounded as it is. I do appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you. I did have one more item, Greg.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks, and I apologize that we don't have a written update on this. I think just based on the timing issue, but this is more of a verbal update. At the last board meeting, we spoke about RFTA's efforts to amend the Regional Transportation Authority law to clarify that workforce housing is part of the regional transportation system, and last week we were hoping that we would get a draft bill introduced with late bill status, but that didn't happen. We were hoping that it will happen in the coming days now. And we're coordinating with CASTA and Jerry Braden, their lobbyist, on this matter. So what I wanted, and one of the requests last time during our discussion at the February board meeting was we wanted to prepare a draft template for the RFTA board members and share that with them and invite them to utilize that and to reach out to particularly two entities that Jerry Braden had suggested, which is the Colorado Municipal League and the Colorado Counties Inc. to support the draft bill that we anticipate in the coming days. And so we plan to provide letters to each board member and that template to use, and to hopefully reach out to the executive directors of each entity to support that. We recognize that this is going to be a process. So where we are after the bill has been introduced, that we may seek additional supporting letters to committee members at that point. But I just wanted to share that update with the board and see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Mike. My concern or question would be, would it make sense to have a letter by the chair from RFTA directly in addition to the individual members? Are we going to have a chair letter signed by the entire board, or when representing the RFTA board?
We made it flexible. So if the RFTA board wishes to just consolidate as one, that's one way. What I heard from the last board meeting was some interest if there were each jurisdiction to do so. So we could talk about that, but we could be flexible with whatever the board prefers in terms of approach.
Got it. I can leave it to your advice. Often, I think it seems like it maybe has a certain amount of weight if one letter comes signed by everyone, and then still the individual jurisdictions can send theirs as well.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Jeannie has her hand raised.
So Mike, I'm sorry, I lost. I thought you said you're looking for late bill status, and then you referred to the bill. So do we have a bill number, or are we still trying to get late bill status?
We don't have the bill number yet. And from our last discussion with Jerry Braden at CASTA, and they've been in touch with Senator Faith Winter, who's the sponsor, and they're hoping to do it this week. Again, once the draft bill has been introduced, then we can get a bill number, and then it's easier to reference.
Faith
So
Faith Winter is a commissioner at this point. She's not a senator anymore.
As for, well, I could circle back with Jerry Braden and Rajewski about that, but that's the team who they've been coordinating with. And I think that, to your point, I could check with them to see if that's going to be an issue.
Okay.
Thanks,
But
Jeannie.
I appreciate the heads up. They didn't mention that aspect.
If we address a
or-
letter to the wrong person, it doesn't go over well.
No, I recognize. I think the letter that they're recommending we seek support, that we convey our support for, is specifically at this time the CML and the Colorado Municipal League and the CCI, the Colorado Counties Inc. That was their recommendation.
Well, I'll be on with CCI this afternoon, so I'm happy to try and reach out to Kelly, who's the CEO there. So
Correct.
the
Thank you.
executive director. Yeah.
We'll
I'll
try to
reach
get
out to
those-
Kelly.
Thank you. We'll try to get those correspondence or the templates speaking, like you could reference those as speaking points too, if it's a verbal, or you could use those as a written, at least something to get started from a written support. Thank you,
Mike.
Jeannie. Yep.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anything else, or that's your list?
That's my list, and I apologize that was just a verbal update, but sometimes because of the timing issues with the board packet and some of these things, we'll have to be flexible a little bit. So thank you.
Thank you. I want to just go back in and just open up to clarify. The airport closure for Pitkin County is 9 a.m. on May 5th through 7 p.m. on June 1st. That's the current closure date. So you all know, as long as you don't try to go anywhere, then you'll be fine, unless it's on a bus. Okay, I think is that the end of our CEO report? Kurt, anything else before we go to exec session?
That's it.
That's it. Okay, we're going to keep us moving. We have an executive session scheduled with Paul Cadoon, General Counsel, pursuant to CRS 2464024F. These are personnel matters, CEO performance review process. So we're going to need to take everyone out. Sorry, go. You want to jump in there?
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, let me jump in.
Yeah.
Just to say that the purpose of this is really to discuss the timing of Kurt's review as set forth in his contract. And we might save a step to get some input from Kurt with regard to, and the board, whether they want to discuss this matter at this time or upon Kurt's 1-year review. And then also would be the issue of what procedure you would use. In the past, you've had a committee. And before we discuss that, as an addendum to what Mike was saying, and the discussion with Jerry Braden and CASTA occurred late yesterday afternoon, and the bill had not been introduced, and Jerry was going to send us an email that we could pass on to you with the idea of each municipality or county writing a separate communication to emphasize the importance of it, and that to quiet the CML, which generally takes an opposite position with regard to any sales tax legislation. And our position is that the current Regional Transportation Authority law impliedly allows regional transportation authorities to implement employee housing. So that's what's going on. The late bill status, he said that he thought it would be introduced by the end of this week. So going back to Kurt's situation, I gave you a memorandum on it. The board approved Kurt's employment agreement in open session. And if you'd like to go in the executive session to discuss it, now would be the time to do so.
Right. Thanks. Thank you, Paul. So that was my question is is there anything else to discuss before exec session? It sounds like you covered it. So we are planning an exec session. I'm going to entertain a motion to go into exec session.
So moved.
Jeannie, thank you.
Second.
Second.
Second,
All
Tori,
of us
and
are second.
everyone seconded. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay,
Aye.
that's enough.
Greg, just
Thanks, Kurt.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul, is there anything else that we need to talk about with Kurt or anyone else? Should we ask for a motion to adjourn the exec session?
Yes, go into a public session and then there will be motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh. Looking for a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn executive session.
Thanks, Tori.
Second.
Second from David. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's good. We're out of exec, ready to come back in. Want to invite whoever is still hanging on to rejoin. Give you a moment.
all right.
Okay, thank you all. Anybody who's rejoining us, thank you for your patience. We are moving on to just consider our next issues to be considered at the next meeting. And we're ready to discuss that. If Kurt wants to lead that one.
Yes, at this point, we will develop an agenda. We don't have that developed at this point in time, but we will review that with board chair and vice chair at our agenda review meeting.
Right, simple as that. Thank you. Our next meeting is going to be April 10th, in person, Carbondale Town Hall, or on WebEx, 8:30 to 11 as usual. So that's where we intend to see you next, and we'll be looking for information on the agenda in the meantime. Any other business to discuss before we adjourn? I'm not seeing any eager hands up. I need a motion.
Motion
to
to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Okay, all in favor? I think that was the first, a second.
Aye.
All in favor?
That was eager.
Aye.
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 Thank you
Thank you,
all.
guys.
Nicole, is there
Thank
anything
you.
else you need from me?
Nope, we're all set. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Kurt.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good
Appreciate
weekend.
it.